All right, Shabbosai, good morning. Let us begin. So we are continuing in Meretz Hashem this morning in Tzidkas Hatzaddik in Os Ayin Gimel. So we began this particular Os yesterday, and we saw that the Rebbe introduced us to this idea of what he called Tshuvas HaMishkal. And Tshuvas HaMishkal, this weighted tshuva, is a type of tshuva that is only truly complete when a person is put into the same exact circumstances in which he initially sinned, but this time around, he summons up the courage to resist the temptation to sin. The truth is, this is not, as we discussed, this is not a novel idea. The Rambam already codifies this in Hilchos Tshuva and just calls this a Bal Tshuva Gemura. Right? Bal Tshuva Gemura. What is a complete Bal Tshuva? And again, everybody pointing to the same idea, namely, the only time a person's tshuva is truly complete is when it's battle-tested. When I'm put in the same exact situation, but this time I resist the temptation to change. So let's continue now. Page Kuf Ayin Gimel. Page Kuf Ayin Gimel, the left-hand column in the Be'uri HaChasidus. Now, what the Rebbe pointed out, however, is, of course, one is not permitted to go ahead and place themselves in a situation of spiritual danger. So here's something fascinating. So remember, as we pointed out in yesterday's shir, it's always interesting to see how this concept is always illustrated with lapses in morality, right? Immoral acts. So obviously, if a man has sinned with a particular woman, it is also for him to place himself in that same situation. The Shem Mitzvah, right? I want to place myself in the same situation because I want to show that this time I can resist the temptation. So the Rebbe says, of course, that's Asr, because it could just inadvertently lead to certain Isurim, and it's also a significant roll of the dice, because maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not ready. And again, if I end up sinning again, I've created that situation myself. So this creates an interesting anomaly, because on one hand, what we're saying is, I'm not really about tshuva until I'm placed back in that same situation again. But this time I resist the temptation to change. But yet what? I'm not allowed to put myself in that situation. So how do we reconcile that? So look at the left-hand column. Ubar hadavar. So therefore, says the Rebbe, it is clear, She'ein Hashem yisparach mazmun lo nisayon zeh, elo kisheodea bo beberur shelo yikashel od, ubevadai yamod b'nisayon. So we'll say this is truly beautiful. So the Rebbe says, the Rambam also, the commentaries on the Rambam highlight this same idea as well. So the Rebbe says, you're right, you don't put yourself in that same situation. But you know who does? HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But the Ribono Shel Olam will only put me back in that same situation if he is absolutely, unequivocally clear that I have the ability to resist that temptation. So the Baruch Hu will put me back, but only because he knows that I could be Omeid B'nisayon, that again I could resist the temptation. Ulekach Yada Ha'adam Yeda Adam Shekasher Hashem Yisparach Mazmin Lo Nisayon Kefi Shahaya Lo B'Shas Cheto Davar Zeh Hu Siman Tov Lo. Bless you. This is beautiful. This is so incredibly beautiful. So the Rebbe says, therefore, so let's follow the progression. Let's just use his example. I sinned in a particular way. I committed Aveira A. And now I've done tshuva for Aveira A with all the various steps of tshuva. I know at the end of the day my tshuva is only complete when I resist the temptation after being placed back in the same circumstance. But I can't place myself in that same circumstance. Says Rebbe, what happens? HaKadosh Baruch Hu places me in that circumstance. The Ribono Shel Olam allows me to test my own tshuva. You both say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't need this. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't need to place me back in the same circumstance. Why not? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the Bochin Levavos. He knows what's happening inside of my heart. He knows if my tshuva is sincere. He knows how I feel. He knows where I'm holding. He doesn't need to put me back in that same situation. You know who needs it? Me. I need it. I need to show that I have the ability to resist temptation. I need to show myself that I have the ability to remain strong. I need to demonstrate to myself that I have the ability ultimately to resist that temptation. It's necessary for me. But says Reb Tzaddik something so amazing. HaKadosh Baruch Hu only puts me back in that situation where he knows that I have the ability to overcome the temptation. In other words, HaKadosh Baruch Hu never sets me up for failure. And this is an incredible yesod. He never sets me up to fall, never sets me up to fail. So if he's placing me back in that circumstance, that is because he knows that I have the ability to meet that particular challenge. And he said, look at this lashon. He says, "Lekach yeda ha'adam." A person should know shekah asher Hashem yisparach mazmin lo nisayon kefi shahaya lo b'shas cheto. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu creates a nisayon, he places me back in a difficult situation, davar zeh hu siman tovlo. It's a good siman for me. Why is it a good siman for me? Shekvar niskan me'avera hahi v'niskabla tshuvasa b'shamayim. I will say, what an incredible way to look at things. If I find myself back in the same exact situation, this is a siman tov, because what does that show? That HaKadosh Baruch Hu believes in me. That my tshuva has been accepted, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is placing me back in this situation because he knows that I have the ability to overcome this difficult matzav. That's the siman tov in this entire thing. But let's say I'll mention something very interesting. It's very cliche and overused and quite trite. But you know that phrase that God never gives you any challenges you can't handle. So let's say very interesting. So someone actually said to me, it's not really the right phrase. The right phrase is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu never gives you any challenges that he can't handle. In other words, perhaps I can't handle it myself. The good news is HaKadosh Baruch Hu can handle anything. So the Ribono Shel Olam never gives me any challenges that he can't handle alongside me. But in any event, Reb Tzaddik, so perhaps, thinking about this, that this yesod really comes from here. That what Reb Tzaddik is saying is, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu puts me b'makom nisayon, he only puts me there because I have the tools to be able to overcome that challenge. And in fact, again, he doesn't need me to do it. He needs me to see that I can do it. And therefore, again, his lashon over here is davar zeh siman tovlo. Let's say such a profound yesod. We often think that when we find ourselves in the midst of an nisayon, in the midst of a test, especially if I find myself kind of in the same situation that I've been in the past, we think that's often reflective of having made poor decisions. How did I get here? I got here because I made the wrong decisions in life. Now, sometimes that's absolutely true. But sometimes I've made the right decisions, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu chooses to put me back in this situation so that I could prove to myself that I have evolved and I have become someone different and my tshuva is sincere. The Rebbe goes on, he says, V'zeh ber ma'shamru chachaminu zal b'Sanhedrin. It's very interesting. He says, goes to the Gemara Masech Sanhedrin, Be'inyan chazarasan shal psule edus. Both say the Gemara talks about over here certain people who are pasal le'edus, right? Certain people who are not permitted to give testimony. So, for example, we have a lot of examples of this. Mesachei Pekuvia, a gambler. We're going to see Mochrei Treifus, a person who goes ahead and dafka sells non-kosher meat. So there are examples of this. So the interesting part with being pasal le'edus is what? How do you regain your cheskas kashrus, right? What does a person need to do in life to regain their cheskas kashrus? Which is a fascinating question. So the Rebbe says, listen to this. He says, Okigon chazara shal misha chashud am mechiras treifas la'acherim kedei laharviach mamon. So he says, for example, he says, what does a person do? Ruvain sold treifas. I didn't know how to take off that bottom thing. I'm sorry. Right? Ruvain sold treifas. Right? Ruvain went ahead and sold non-kosher meat. Okay, so that's also. Why did he sell non-kosher meat? We'll say not because he doesn't want Jews to eat kosher, but why? Why? Money. Everyone knows there's more money to be fed, more money to be made in non-kosher meat than there is in kosher meat. So he sold treifas. Then I will say, as a result, he's pasal le'edus. So how do you rectify that state, right? How does a person go ahead and regain their cheskas kashrus? Yuchshar laha'id ayidei. Listen to this. This is incredible. Sheyachzir aveda lechaver im yimtza. Both say, watch this. Then we'll have to stop. How do you regain your cheskas kashrus, right? I was a mocher treifus. I sold non-kosher meat to Jews, right under the guise, right under the pretense that it was kosher. I even put on 17 echsherim, right onto the package, right? So now I want to do tshuva. So now apostle ladies want to do tshuva. How do you do tshuva? You do tshuva if I become the kind of person who finds the lost object of my friend and returns it to him. Others both say, when you find a lost object, it's easy enough to pocket it. But if you become the kind of person who finds a lost object and returns the lost object, your cheskas kashrus is returned. Now, what does one thing have to do with the other? Shebazeh muchach shebevadai chazer bo mechemdas hamamon shahaisalo. Both this is so beautiful. So remember again, why does a person go ahead and sell treifas? Why does that happen? Why? Because I love money. Because I love money, but I love money in an unhealthy way. In an unhealthy way, right? Nothing wrong with liking money. Loving money is problematic. So now I'm selling treifas because I love money. So now I lost my cheskas kashrus. How do I get that back? I get that back by restoring a proper relationship to money. How do I demonstrate that I've restored a proper relationship to money? I find your lost object. I could just as easily keep it and no one would ever know. But I don't. I give it back. And when I give it back, I thereby demonstrate that I have restored a proper relationship, a proper approach to money, to materialism. So I will say, so the point that Hatzaddik is saying is, well, let's play this out. How does this happen? How does this happen? So Hatzaddik would say the way it happens is as follows. I sell the treifas, I'm pasala edus, I do my tshuva. There's multiple steps to personalistic tshuva. And then what happens? When my tshuva is complete and I'm ready, what does HaKadosh Baruch Hu do? What does HaKadosh Baruch Hu do with tshuva in general? He tests it. Because at the end of the day, not for God, but for me, the only way to really see that my tshuva is genuine is if it's battle tested. So what does he do for the mocher treifas? He goes and I'm walking down the street and what happens? I find Ruvain's wallet. Ruvain lost his wallet. No idea. I could just, and Baruch Hashem, Ruvain just went to the ATM right beforehand, right? So it's easy enough for me to chaperayim. But I don't. Ultimately, again, then my cheskas kashrus is restored. The Rebbe goes on, he said, we'll have to stop over here. He says, Shebazeh muchach, shebevadai, chazer bo mechemdas alam shaiselo, ukiyotze bazeh, kigon shiyotzi treifa machmas yado b'davar chashuv mishlo ayin sham. So we'll have to stop over here. But again, the point that the Rebbe is making, and this is really incredibly profound, is this idea that while I am not permitted to put myself in the same situation in which I originally sinned, a person is not allowed to say, I'm ready to test my resolve. Let me put myself right back in the same circumstance in which I sinned. In fact, Rabbi, remember again, part of the chilik, part of tshuva is distancing yourself from the actions and from the circumstances which led to chait in the first place. Failure to do so is a fundamental lack of tshuva. But yet, my tshuva is only complete when it's actually tested. So how do I reconcile that? HaKadosh Baruch Hu puts me back in that matzav when He knows that I'm ready to handle it. And I'm able, He gives me the opportunity to show myself that my tshuva is complete and my tshuva is genuine. So we have to stop over here. We'll continue Mirat Hashem one more shir in Os Ayin Gimel and Mirat Hashem tomorrow. Shkach, everyone.